Hello and welcome to another episode of the Coffee Made Me Do It podcast. This one is an epic one. I've been a long-time fan of dark arts coffee out of Hackney, London, and I had the great honor of sitting down with Brad Morrison to talk about how he has built such an incredibly unique coffee brand. And I had a great time. I hope you will too. Please bear in mind we were sitting in a live, active, hard-working roastery, and there will be a bit of background noise and interruption, but it is so worth it. We had such great chats. Can't wait to get back to London and hang out with Brad and the team a bit more. They're on a cool journey at the moment. New packaging, a revised approach to roasting, and just epic stuff all around. Hope you enjoy this one, guys.
Someone changed the ringtone on our phone up here to this thing, and I didn't know that they'd changed it. So I've spent the last 2 weeks not answering the phone because I didn't know it was the phone ringing. And there's someone there, I saw Toby, he's our e-commerce manager, but he's sort of also like, he's assumed the role of like phone answerer, which is the worst job in the business, I think.
That's amazing.
It's just unfortunate that he had to do that.
But it's so nice to actually have like a dedicated line, like a hard line for the roastery, because
we do have it, but it is almost entirely marketing calls. It is like, it's gross.
We've got 2 phone numbers listed. One is the cafe number.
Yeah.
I don't think that phone's been turned on in 2 years.
No.
So that's a problem. And the second number is my personal cell phone number.
So my number's on the internet somewhere, and I haven't been able to figure out where it is. And every time someone calls, I forget to ask them. And I need to remember, because people go, oh, hey, like, is this dark arts? And I'll be like, yeah, like what? And then I'll try and find out. I'll be, oh, look, just do this. And then I'll be like, fuck, I need to ask you, like, where did you find this number? Because it's my personal number. Like,
That's
why are you
so
calling?
Funny.
Yeah.
I get messages, so like some guy sent me a message 2 days ago, and he's like, hey, my name's like Pranesh.
Yeah.
I have a bus company, and we're bringing a group of 90 school kids to come and look at the waterfall that's near our roastery. He's like, can we get 90 toasted sandwiches, like quickly on our way to the next stop? And it's like, we have 1 toasty press. So I'm like, no, you can't get 90 toasted sandwiches in like 20 minutes, you know? But it's so funny that my phone number is still...
Yeah.
So my ringtone, my voicemail is, I haven't been able to change it for some reason. Every time I go in to change it, it like doesn't work. And it still says like, hey, you've reached Dario, I'm traveling abroad at the moment. Please don't leave a message, rather send me a WhatsApp. And I haven't changed it in like 2 years. So even when I'm at home, I'm abroad. So I just let everything go to voicemail, and if it's important, I'll get in touch.
Yeah, they'll get in touch. Yeah, no, that's good. We do get a few, actually, I'd be happy to get rid of the phone completely, because it's like, the type of people that are going to call about something are generally the people you don't want to talk to, and you'd prefer it if they emailed.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, 100%.
Like we had an email just the other day come through from someone, and so we're obviously changing the packaging, right? And I tried to line it up the best I could, but I missed by, it's going to be about 3 weeks. So our current packaging ended, our boxes, we didn't have enough. We're still shipping them for just wholesale, but anyone online, you just get a bag. And that's going to be for the next 3 weeks until we change. And this guy had purchased it in that bit where we realized had to quickly do something, sent out emails to everyone saying, hey, look, by the way, this is how your packaging's going to look. Very sorry. If it's an issue, let us know. He obviously didn't respond to that or see it. And then he just like sent this like really strongly worded email about how disappointed he was and how he'd purchased it as a gift, which I can understand completely, but it was really, the tone was just sour. But at the bottom it said, call me on this number now. We need to figure a solution. It was like, no one's going to call you.
What the hell would you phone up?
No, we're going to email you and tell you what we're going to do.
So the biggest problem...
There will be no phone call to you, I'm sorry.
The biggest problem there is that you guys have built something so desirable that, you know, people want exactly what they're seeing.
Oh, I know.
It's like, it's unbelievable. Like, honestly, so we were joking in the roastery before I came over, like, where am I buying coffee to bring home, and where am I buying stuff like merch to bring home?
Yeah.
And the only place that was like both coffee and merch was you guys.
Ah, cool.
From
That's
my
really
team,
nice
which
of
is
you.
super cool.
That's nice of you to say.
Everyone's a fan. I think for the sake of just having an intro, I'll just quickly intro this conversation, if that's okay with you.
Go for it.
So I'm sitting with Brad from Dark Arts Coffee, one of our favorite roasteries around the world, in your Hackney roastery upstairs.
Yep.
The noise in the background is the roastery and the train maybe, and maybe the primary school around the corner. And yeah, we just like catching up on all things coffee. So welcome to the conversation.
Yeah. Thank you very much for having me.
No, of course. I think for me personally, when I first got introduced to your brand, my first sort of introduction video that I saw was when you bought the Diedrich you have downstairs. And I remember, I think you guys did a reel of some sort, or maybe a post that's like, there was something to the effect of, Diedrich is the best machine in the world. If anyone tells you anything else, they're like stupid idiots, like Diedrich for life, you know? And I was like, I like these guys. Go for it if you need to take that.
Actually, give me a sec.
Yeah, 100%.
This is our tech. Thanks, bud. Bye. We've got a machine being installed
Congrats
today.
on the Slayer. I saw the...
Yeah. So we've just got a two-group espresso.
Where's that going?
That's going into our Soho shop. Yeah. That shop's is us our attempt at putting our best foot forward in service and in coffee preparation.
That's awesome.
So we've got a very, very good team over there, and they're working with the best coffee that we can roast, and they're doing just such a great job.
That's so cool.
It's inside of a clothing store from another local brand. They're called Aries. They started here in East London, and they're sort of on a path to world domination at the moment. They're doing collaborations with Puma and like huge stuff. And they had this space, and we got talking to them, and they asked us to get involved. So we could put a little bit of a spin on it, sort of took it over and dressed it up so it was a little bit more like us. But it was also, we're trying to, I don't know about if, I feel like we're going through a bit of an evolution at the moment, and the presentation in that spot is probably the closest to sort of what we're moving into. So it's really exciting. It's a really exciting thing. And it was a great opportunity for a brand like us and a company as small as we are, because we effectively got gifted a built cafe, and we just had to spend a little bit of extra money on details.
Wow.
So it was.
And a Slayer.
I mean, the Slayer, we had to sell a couple of bits and bobs to Blair, our wholesale manager, had been. I put him to the task. So we had some old machines lying around and some extra bits. So we were trying to sell stuff to get the money together so we could buy it. And then we've just started working with Slayer as a reseller. So we're quite excited. I think that company's has gone through a lot of changes in the last little while.
Okay.
Obviously, I'm not sure if you're aware by their purchase by Chimbali, but they're now manufacturing in a much bigger place, and I think they may have had some quality issues in the past.
Yep.
But hopefully they've bridged a lot of that.
Yeah, you see a lot of them in Paris.
They're beautiful machines.
Oh, they're so beautiful.
Yeah.
I love the look of the steam and the functionality of the espresso.
Yeah.
If they had a love child, I think I'd be all over that thing.
Yeah, I mean, I really like the espresso, and from what I understand, you can sort of do some, you can preset some stuff into it, so it's not complete, But to be honest, the baristas that are going to be using it are so excited to have that complete
control.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. It's so funny with my team. Obviously, the whole Europe trip that I'm on at the moment is very exciting to everybody, and I've had so many messages from them saying oh, we saw this person posting this and we saw this happen over there. But the one thing that they're super jealous of is that I'm able to come here and
yeah.
I don't think they are even aware that we're sitting down to chat, but just coming to grab something from the roastery would be it's amazing.
Oh, I find that, I mean, it's really incredibly kind of you to say. It's a strange thing to hear, if I'm being completely honest, but...
Did you ever expect that would be the case when you started the business?
No.
That you'd have very straight-laced fans in South Africa?
I mean, it's the following that we've managed to grow, and the community we have of people out there who follow what we do and gain some form of enjoyment out of what it is that we're trying to do here. It is a huge surprise. and it never ceases to kind of like blow me away a little bit. I think we were talking earlier on, and I think it's just I suppose the type of people that out there that have kind of really just dove into the brand and like, you know, follow and purchase everything, and you know, it's cool. It's really, really nice. It reminds you when you know, like if we work on like a merchandising thing and then we put it out and it sells out, you know, it's a really, really rewarding feeling. It's really,
cool.
really rewarding.
When the brand has become bigger than the core product,
Yeah.
I think that's very exciting, and that's something that I am always striving for. When people can relate to the brand beyond just the actual coffee or whatever the core product is, that's really, really cool.
Do you want another beer?
Who's on the rings? Who's on the rings?
Mostly his kid.
Mostly his kid. How old is your child?
She's 6 years old.
She's 6. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I bought these quite early on in a fitness journey, and never really got into them. But it's, to be honest, for me, it's like I'm quite a hyperactive person.
Okay.
I'm like always fidgeting, hard to sit down. So these are just a nice thing to just go grab, swing around on it, and then go sit back down.
Yeah, that's cool.
I don't use them properly.
No. Jeepers.
We've got one guy in the company though who can do it really well.
Really?
Luke. Yeah, he's built like a Greek god, that guy.
Yeah, so our roastery manager, Farney, is like really big into, he was like the amateur, let me get this right, amateur world Muay Thai champion in like 2017. And now he's moved into like fitness and CrossFit and that type of thing. And
Cool.
He's an absolute animal. I mean, doing like ring muscle ups and
Yeah.
stuff that I can't even imagine. Like it's.
I mean, I think I'll eventually get to it. I've been on a fitness journey myself over the last couple of years. I found that like I suppose the stress of running a company and being a new father, living in London, you know, there's a lot there that can be a bit overwhelming at times, and the stress really started to build up. And then it started manifesting in like bad eating habits and drinking too much and, you know, partying and all that kind of stuff. So over the last like 2 years, I've kind of tried to build some much more healthier habits.
That's awesome.
And it's been it's quite cliche because obviously I'm going to be 40 next year. It's this sort of classic thing, you know, you're in your 30s and you kind of have a midlife crisis that's going to the gym. But it's like, to me, it's like the perfect one. It's like, it's been one of the best gifts I could have ever given myself.
I was going to say, of all the midlife crises you can have,
I
it's
know.
like kind of a good one. But I can relate. I mean, business owner, I've got a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, and it's busy, man. It's like, it's hard to find time to focus on good habits.
Yeah, it is. It is. But I suppose the one benefit that I mean, there's many benefits, but I think the one that I cherish the most is my ability to move around, and not having a boss is that you can just get up and go to the gym when you want to. For me, for someone who lives with very little structure, and I've given up on trying to put structure in my life, I've realized that that's just never going to happen. So, but for me, it's like, I have to do things when I have to do them. So, and the ability just to get up and go to the gym at 10 o'clock or 1 o'clock or whenever, just to get that done, scratch that itch, come back focused. And I find it is like a really good tool for like refocusing my brain, getting me back into the energy of like trying to think creatively, because that's ultimately what I'm doing all the time. And what I imagine you're doing all the time. It's just your creative brain is on all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's exhausting.
It is exhausting. It is exhausting. And I think, you know, from time to time, I'm like, I can't wait to have somebody who can take over this part of the business. But then at the same time, it's like, no, that's actually the part of the business that is so unique to my brain.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, I would imagine it would be very much the same here. Like if you, as you said to me earlier, you started the business and have built the business appealing to yourself. Like the markets of one.
Yeah.
And then you found an audience who resonates with that message. And if someone else starts doing it, the market of one changes. It's the wrong one. You know? So we have to be on when it comes to creativity and that kind of thing. But I mean, even our new packaging.
Yeah, which looks amazing, by the
Oh,
way.
thank you. I really appreciate that. I had it in my mind. So I'm really good at coming up with ideas and really bad at explaining them to people. So
Yes.
I kept drawing these lines in the mountains and the sun, and my girlfriend would look at them and be like, I don't get it. Like, our packaging was so different before, and I think there was so much resistance from our customers and my team to actually change it because they liked it. But I knew that we had outgrown it. We were past it. But yes, finding someone who could execute on the crazy little thoughts running around my brain was quite difficult.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand that. I've at least got before I started this and before I worked in coffee, I had a creative career for a very short amount of time. But I was basically an illustrator and doing sort of mural work and stuff like that.
Oh, cool.
It was fun. It was why I actually moved to London in the first place. But so I have some ability to take what's in my brain and kind of put it out on paper. But we've recently gone through a packaging change. Well, we're in the middle of it. We're about to launch it on the 1st of October. And this was something where I had like pained. Like I'd gone through so much like attempting to take what was in my head and pull it out and put it into reality. And it was just, I couldn't do it. And I ended up looking for help through a friend. And then through that friend, he ended up putting the job up to his the company he worked for, which is Wyden Kennedy, W&K. They're big time advertising agency, and they've got a new branding arm of the business.
Cool.
And when they got wind that we wanted to do this thing, which is a big part of it actually was about developing some design principles to help us communicate a little bit better, and also just to like free up some time, and because it's you when you bring more people in, you need people to have something to work by. And design principles would have been a nice thing, but the main focus actually was changing the packaging, because I had a similar thought. It's like the black box with the red label it was us, and it has been us for a very long time, but I felt that we as a company had changed so much in the last few years that it didn't, I wasn't resonating with it anymore.
Okay.
And I knew that we needed something else that would better illustrate who we are as a company and who we are as a group of people.
I'm really excited to see it when it comes out. It's going to be awesome, I'm sure.
It's fun. It's fun. I've definitely figured another way to make my life harder.
I can relate. I went from complaining about having to have like specific labels printed to now having 11 different bags that we have printed, like fully printed bags.
Oh shit! Yeah.
And it's like, why was I complaining about just some labels that I have printed down the road, and now I have to import 11 different SKUs? You know?
So I'll let you in on a little part of it. I'll show you one. I'll show you the render later.
We can make sure this comes out after the 1st of October as well.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really mind either way, but effectively, currently we rotate coffees relatively quickly, and we've got anything from 12 to 16 coffees on rotation at any point in time. And every one of them has a unique name that we sort of, we put a bit of time and energy into that process. The new thing will have an image that is also linked to that coffee, and that image will be in a form that's sort of collectible. So it's
That's very cool.
So that is fun, and I've basically spent the last few days like putting together the first lineup of images and names and stuff, and I think it's going to be quite powerful. I'm very, very excited by the whole prospect and the whole process, and W&K and the team over there have just absolutely they've killed it. Like they went and did an audit of our company, went through years worth of just trash from Instagram and merchandise we'd done, and kind of gone, this works, this is a bit, I don't know about that, and this is what we think, and this is how we think of you as a company. And they presented like this thing, and I was just like, fuck, like it was so cool to have it, because this company is basically been this like creative project for myself for such a long time that I don't really see it. I can't see what other people see, and I don't. And it's always really nice when I get compliments or people say nice things about our marketing or our social media or things like that. But I don't see what people can see. But to have like a group of highly trained creative people pick it apart and then present it back to me in a very like palatable way, I was just like, oh wow, that looks really cool. I really, really like that. And then they then took that and then gave me some packaging ideas, and I loved them. Like immediately, I was like, this is so cool. And they threw in some like interesting, plays on how we would do a box and things like that. So I'm really excited.
So I know that every year, that since I've been following, at least you've done the Your Name coffee.
Yeah.
And that's always a hit.
Yeah.
I reckon like AI, your name, put in a few prompts of the person you're naming it after, and it's going to spit out an image.
We definitely could do that. The problem is, I think this packaging will actually potentially end the Your Name, Your Own coffee, because that was like, whenever we did that, we would do it like maybe once a year around Christmas. It would be incredibly successful as like a product.
And make someone's life a living hell.
My Roastery team, fucking, they hated it. I don't think I've done anything as a CEO that's caused more people to like give me shitty looks than that product.
That's
because it's an absolute nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare. You've got hundreds and hundreds of different labels that have to be married up to the orders. It's gross. It's like a really gross thing. We did by the last one, I think, the production team had worked out a way to make it like as seamless as possible, but it's not nice.
So it's not a good idea?
It's a great idea.
Okay, cool. Because we finally bought our own label printer.
It's a great idea.
And as I bought the printer, I said to Katie, I'm like, we can do Your Name coffee now.
Yeah, you should definitely do it. I think it's fun. It's also like, it's just, I mean, like Coca-Cola did it, like it's a great idea. It's like you've been able to have people have a personalized product. We get requests very regularly for people being like, and I think it's because of the naming, because I guess we're not kind of typical about the naming of our coffees. It's become a thing. So people are like, oh, hey, I've got a wedding. Like, I'm getting married. We've been drinking your coffee forever. Could you do us like a batch of coffee with like a certain name on it? Like, and we'd be like, yeah, of course. That'd be fun.
So cool.
Like stuff like that's like really cool.
So I want to come back to the naming of the coffees and the Coca-Cola thing. But just before getting there, like you were obviously, you mentioned you were in the creative space for a short time. As a muralist and an illustrator. Yeah. And then was it directly from there that you moved into coffee?
So I moved here to sort of, I guess, go after this art
From
career.
where? Sorry.
From Melbourne.
Okay.
So I'm originally from New Zealand, and I was sort of on this well-beaten path from living in Wellington to moving to Melbourne to moving to Hackney. It's like the creative spot. And I was sort of halfway along that. I'd gone to go and stay with some friends in Melbourne. I was only supposed to be there for a summer, and I was there for about 4 years, I suppose. And while I was there, I became just obsessed with like street art and mural and graffiti, and the community there is just, it's so positive and like inclusive, and it's very easy to break into and start hanging out and going to gallery shows and making friends. It's probably one of the best parts of my life so far, has been those few years living in Melbourne and doing that. But I started to think of it as maybe a career path, and I thought, well, as I was starting to make some ground in Melbourne, I thought, why don't I move to London? It's a bigger place. If I can do it, if I can kind of start it going in Melbourne, maybe I could do it here. And at least if I did it here, I'd have Europe on my doorstep. So that was the plan. But when I got here, something happened to me creatively, and I think I just I hit a bit of a blip, or something happened, and I just sort of fell out of love with what I was doing at the time, and so I needed something else to do. And a friend of mine introduced me to someone who ended up now becoming my wife, but it was a coffee shop close. So I went and started working in this coffee shop, and within a year I was like the head barista, and was helping improve the quality of the coffee across this guy. He had 4 cafes. So I got really into being a barista. I really loved it. I loved working behind a bar. I loved picking the music. I loved talking to people. I loved trying to create an energy or a vibe in a cafe. I loved like the hosting of that role.
Okay.
And then obviously the coffee and the technical, like I guess the dance between the machine and the grinder and the coffee. You know, so I really enjoyed that. And then I think where I guess the idea to do my own roastery came from was that the more I got into coffee and started, like my eyes sort of opened to what the industry was and all the players and the roasteries and what was all going on, I very quickly realized that I didn't fit in anywhere. There was no, like 12, 13 years ago, coffee in this country, probably in a lot of parts of the world, is very, very stale. Very stale, very serious. It's not anymore.
Beginnings of specialty coffee, it was
Yeah.
like really one thing, wasn't it?
No, and I suppose it's like the people that were doing it were probably massively autistic. Like, you know, like fucking, it's a very like intense, it's a very focused, like passionate thing that like a lot of very strange people get into coffee,
Yeah.
you know? And at the start, it kind of felt like that was all it was. It was just a bunch of very, very hyper-focused people nerding out. And I suppose that was, it just didn't, I couldn't see myself in it. And like, I also couldn't see like what I liked about the industry in any of these companies that were roasting coffee. I couldn't see any of the vibrancy that I was experiencing in the coffee shop. You would have these places that were filled with young people and music and energy, and then these bags of coffee that just looked like they could have like it could be a bag full of like hypodermic needles. Like they're just completely fucking devoid of any personality.
Absolutely.
So I suppose out of that somewhere was sort of this little spark of like, fuck, like I could probably make it look a little better than these things. And then, you know, I kind of started thinking about it. But
And when you started Dark Arts, was it, I mean, I think if I look at the brand now, there's a very developed personality.
yeah.
It's edgy, which is such a weird word. Like it can describe so many things, but
Yeah, I mean, I understand that. It's a word that's used a lot in describing us, and I kind of get it, because it's like, I've been an edgelord like my whole life. Like I like shit that's like not, you know, I like my sense of humor is stuff where I have to pick the people that I have tell jokes with, you know. I've always kind of been like that. I don't. I also like things that like are socially, that have an awkward social vibration to them. Like I like things that make people feel uncomfortable, and I like things that sort of push boundaries. I really like humor and comedy and stand-up comedy and stuff like that. So I guess a lot of that just filters through
I think
into that like humor that I sort of put into a lot of stuff.
Okay. A great example that comes to mind would be, I think it's 19 grams in Berlin.
Yeah.
At the bottom of their cup when you finish, it says another one with a question mark.
Yeah.
A sweet spot in Munich.
Yeah.
You get to the bottom of the cup and there's like a winking smiley face.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing a cup that you guys did that said, "I will kill again."
Yeah.
Like that's amazing, you know.
Yeah.
And it puts a smile on my face. And I think it's something that so many people have resonated with, because from my perspective, it's like the way that you guys do things is it's so obvious that it is just pushing a boundary to see how far the boundary can be pushed. Maybe intentionally, maybe not. Like I'm not saying that you set out to do that, but it definitely seems as though you have, from my perspective, you've tested where that boundary is. Like where is the pushback?
Yeah, I think like earlier on, I would say that a big part of it, and I think I got a sick pleasure out of it, was pushing those boundaries, trying to find, like we had a coffee shop that, or cafe, which it was very well liked by the vegan community, because we had a lot of just really good vegan food. We also had like non-vegan. We had meat and stuff, but the idea of the cafe was that it was somewhere that people could come and eat together, because we had a lot of vegan friends, and to be honest, we just got sick of going and eating Vietnamese, because it was just the only thing that everyone could all eat at the same time. So that was sort of the idea. But we had this huge vegan following, and I couldn't help myself but like poke the bear and make posts that were like very, very inflammatory towards the vegan community. And
That's
it was almost because the people who understood what I was doing and that I was just having fun, they loved it. But anyone that was like far too serious, they would unfollow us. And it was almost like a good thing, because it concentrated the people down. So it was more of like kind of just the people that knew and kind of understood what we were doing or what the sense of humor was. But then I kind of went a bit silly with it, and we were like, you know, jumping on things that were happening in the world, and like, you know, we did the Prince Andrew coffee, and like we did like one for.
Someone brought that up with me today.
Yeah. Yeah, we did like a one to celebrate the end of the Boris Johnson ending COVID. And it was called Mask Off, and it was like, you know, we were very obviously tongue-in-cheek making fun of the fact that the government had not ended COVID, but like the blowback we got from some of these things was intense.
My mom always talks about communities, or like in the context of business, like teams as being self-weeding gardens. So like the bad sort of like elements tend to leave.
Yeah.
It seems like your followers are probably it's like an environment of a self-weeding garden where those who don't get it will quickly unfollow.
Yeah.
It's not like a brand where you'll be like hanging on because, you know, it's easy to just stay following and see what's coming up. Like if you hate it, you're gonna leave.
Yeah, and we do. Like it is. I think it is. I mean, we're a lot more tame now, and I think that's mainly because the anxiety that it would give me of like having there's an army of people out there that like would love to see our downfall. You know, there were points of time where there was like quite vast groups of people trying to.
And were you getting like actual hate mail and?
Oh, like I wouldn't say that. It's more like I think this cultural phenomenon has sort of changed a lot recently. But you know, back around 2020, it was quite strange online. Even before that, people would rally together to like try and cancel things if they didn't like something. And I guess it's like we were just making some jokes, but it's very stressful. So as much fun as it is, it's also like I don't need that kind of stress in my life. So we don't really do that kind of stuff anymore. But I'll still like to like have fun and.
Well, I mean, very recently, I'm looking at a couple of the stickers on your water boiler over there.
Yeah.
I mean, you're still. I don't know if ripping off is the right word. Ripping off other brands. Like I'm looking at a dark art sticker that looks like the Fanta logo, and I know you've done some stuff with I saw a Starbucks sort of like campaign that quickly resulted in some legal action from their side.
Yeah, we got a cease and desist from them, but that was one where like I knew we would get a cease and desist, so I did it knowing I'd get that, knowing I'd be able to post that letter, knowing that.
So that was part of the plan.
Yeah. I think sometimes it's like it's fun to take people through a journey, I think, and when I have the time, like right now, I spend so much time doing other stuff other than the social media. So a lot of that kind of, I'm hoping to maybe get more time back into it to sort of do that
piss other companies off.
Well, it's like it's just fun to kind of like follow people through a thing. So I suppose like the Prince Andrew one, like that actually was completely organic. We had an A board that we put out and said, top like comment is going to be written on the A board. And that the top liked comment was Prince Andrew is a sweaty nonce. So we wrote that, and then we put that, and it did so well as like a social media post. They were like, fuck it, we'll make a coffee. But we made a coffee, but then we did a discount on it. And the discount was, we made the coffee 10 million and 10 pounds. And the discount you had to write was Mama's Boy. And it gave you a $10 million discount because he had been bailed out from his mum for $10 million. There was something going on with the Queen at the time. I can't even remember the news story that was happening, but we did this discount code that gave you $10 million off. It ruined our analytics for like that entire year. And this, by the way, that was an idea of one of our staff members to do that, and it was like people really like that. But you know, like then we put that out, and then you know, for that week, people were like following us through this like weird journey, and then at the end they get to buy the coffee and have it at home, and it's like
storytelling.
It's great,
at
like
the best level. It's
yeah, and you know that
a
like
tangible product at the end.
yeah, and then they're going to be able to like every person. Then they're going to be now out there talking about this box of coffee that they got and how it kind of came about. So it's like that's the kind of stuff I really really like. That's amazing. It's like real like interactive community building, but also like you are engaging with your community. It's
Absolutely.
not just hoping that they're going to click the little heart.
One that comes to mind is I remember seeing I think it was an email or a comment or some sort of review of a coffee that it was like tea, if I remember correctly, and you guys posted it to like best response wins or something like that, and the memes just went crazy.
Yeah, and then we were reposting the memes. I think, what was that guy's name?
And he ended up coming back at the end.
Yeah, so he ended up emailing, and we ended up sending him like a care package because it's like the content we got out of him was phenomenal, but also like the memes we were getting sent and then reposting was like that was insane. It was like I've had a stronger cup of tea.
Yes. And didn't you rename the coffee?
I can't
like something like stronger cup of tea or something like that at the end.
I think maybe, but it was like that was fun. That was fun.
That was exceptional. I remember seeing it, like let's say on the Monday, and by Tuesday or Wednesday I hadn't seen anything. I hadn't been back on your your Instagram, and then when I went on, you know, when you look at like someone's stories and there's just dots across the top because there's so many of them. It was staggering, and at the time we were like. As a team, we were like, oh man, how cool would it be if someone made a meme about us one day? Like one meme. And you guys had like 1,000 of them.
And they were good too. Like some
really
of the people.
Good.
Yeah, there's a handful of like people that have been following us for a very long time. And anytime we do any shit like that, they're like straight away, they're the ones that send up some of the like the best, like just real funny people.
So good.
Another thing which is like one of my favorite things we've done, which we were supposed to do at the start of this year, but I ran out of time, and I'm hoping that I'll do it again next year because we did it 2 years in a row, which was the animation competition.
Yes.
And that we set aside £1,000 out of the budget. We were like, look, that's going to be that's the first prize, and then also like it's, you know, there's. We've also met animators through this as well that we've worked on and had like commissioned like actual animation from. We're aware of other companies using the animation competition to look for people. We've had companies be like who is your favorite from the thing. It's really cool, but that's one of my favorite things because not only is it goes out, and a lot of those people that are entering are actual customers. Some of them are just people who are animating who maybe found out about the competition, but like a lot of them are our customers. They put it in, and then it's like voted on by our customer base. Then the winner gets the money, and it's like that's a fun thing as well. I really like doing that one.
That is really cool.
Yeah, I think when I first put that out, I was really nervous. Like when we did that one, the very first time, because I was like is anyone going to enter?
Exactly.
Like,
it does seem.
And we only gave like 5 weeks or something, which is, I'm aware in animation is like not a very long time. Like especially if they're trying to do this outside of their job. Like if we'd commissioned 5 weeks, maybe it's. But anyway, it was that's a very fun
there were a
thing.
lot of entries like.
We ended up with like 50.
Wow.
And we had to like shortlist it down to like 10. We made sure that anyone who entered got a huge care package of like 20 boxes of coffee. Something so much that when you're asking someone to put in that much time, it's like we felt obligated to give them some form of reward. And then everyone who got into the top 10, they then got something else. And then, you know, the winner obviously gets the money, but
that's amazing.
Yeah, that's a really fun one. And it's cool because it's like, for that week, all my friends like that I'll be seeing people and they'll be like, oh, this one was my favorite. So it's everyone's sort of looking at it. It's
very
cool.
engaging. And
yeah.
So I remember reading I grew up in a very Christian household.
Yeah.
And
I did for a time as well.
Yeah.
Evangelical.
Absolutely.
The big
So, like,
churches with the band.
yeah.
Hands in the
That
air,
was my
talking in
zone,
tongues.
man. Yeah, 100%. And I think like if I I do often show my mom. I see my mom a lot. She does buying for our cafe, and like as I said before, my sister's our cafe manager. So like family complexity in the business does exist.
Yeah.
But I often show her some of the stuff you guys do.
Yeah.
And I think she can't wrap her head around like just the name Dark Arts Coffee. Like she just assumes that this is like a
Satanic.
temple of worship.
Cult,
You know, like this is
So my family back in New Zealand are Christians. They're, and I think at times have been probably more active than maybe they are now. But in the last 10 years I've been doing this business, at times they've been like very, very very religious group of people.
So how do they feel about Lucifer Returns and
Yeah,
the names
or
of the
the fact that
boxes?
there is just a devil on the front of the box, which it's going to be sad to see go with our new packaging. But I'm ready to say goodbye to the
let
little
go of the devil?
let go of the little Lucifer. He's like, I think he was good to us for a time, but now it's
Really to get your soul back.
It's really hard to sell coffee into places like Northern Ireland when you've got a giant devil on your box. It's very it's very exclusionary.
So do you think taking the devil away but keeping Dark Arts Coffee will be
It's
more
like
widely accepted?
I guess I don't know. It's like the way I view the Dark Arts name is probably closer to the sort of the joke of the Harry Potter thing. It's a little bit more like wizards and
Magical. Okay.
cauldrons and that kind of stuff. A little bit more Dungeons and Dragons than Lucifer lives.
Pentagrams and
Yeah, I've never, like, to be honest, I've never really been into the occulty stuff. That was, I was around a lot of people when we started this that were very much into that kind of stuff. And there was also, I don't know if you remember, there was that time about 10 years ago. There was a lot of it around. Like all the Netflix shows were all serial killer stuff. There was like, I think the True Detective first season. Like that was a very big show, and it was out. It had its fingers out in popular culture, right? It was all very moody and occultish and stuff. So, and we played into a lot of that stuff because it was what we all thought was quite cool. But now it's sort of, I don't know. It's we're a group of people who, we're just relaxed, hardworking kind of people who like to have a laugh.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I mean that's the vibe I got as I walked into the Roastery.
Yeah.
Like friendly greeting by, I didn't actually get his name, but your barista Nick.
Yeah, Nick.
Friendly greeting from Nick, offered me a coffee straight away. Like there was, I think, a couple in as customers.
Yeah.
And they were just like, you could just see they were having the best time.
Yeah.
They were happy to be here. And then just a hard-working Roastery team. It felt like being at home. Hard-working with like just enough work so that you look grumpy, but you're actually happy if you think about it long enough.
Yeah.
Which I think is
We've
a great
got
balance.
such a hard-working team. It's insane. Like I don't know how lucky I got. I don't know how I got so lucky to find this group of people. And our team extends past the people from today. Like, unfortunately, there's one of our production staff members and one of our wholesale managers. They're in Croatia. They're childhood friends who work here together. Matt, who works out of Glasgow, he was in town, but he's off to Bristol, and he went with Sophie, who's someone else who's here quite a lot, who's running out a Soho store, but then is also very heavily involved in our coffee program. She's an absolute amazing talent when it comes to coffee, everything about it. So yeah, it's an incredibly solid team, and
You're about 20 now.
I think it's about 20, and we've got one starting on Monday. We've got a new wholesale. We've got a third person joining our sales team. She's coming over from New Ground. We're really excited for her to start.
New Ground, the packaging.
New Ground Coffee Roasters. They're based out of Oxford.
I'm thinking of Grounded, I think it's called.
Yeah, Grounded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That's
So-
super exciting. I mean,
Yeah.
I've always wondered about the wholesale side of things. I've found myself wanting to, every one of our wholesale customers has got a business that they care about hugely.
Yeah.
And they're doing their best to build a brand. And in the past, when it comes to coffee programs of wholesale customers, and not in the past, in the current, around us, we have cafes wanting branded bags with their own brand on them.
Yeah.
But for me personally,
How do you feel about that?
I don't think there's a right answer for everybody, but for me personally, I work so hard to source the coffee that we source.
Yeah.
And I work really hard
I
developing.
feel like we'll probably have the same opinion.
Yeah, so we don't actually do any of it. We don't do
Yeah.
any white label at all.
So we don't either. We've got one customer who orders so much coffee that they get an exclusive.
Okay.
And that's it wasn't even like a deal-breaking thing. We offered it to them because of how much coffee they were going through. Outside of that,
exclusive
though,
coffees for me, that would be
Yeah.
be dreamy.
yeah, that's fine. And I know that a lot of roasteries do this, where they'll take their base espresso and then just put a nice sticker on it that says the name of the cafe. And I understand it, and I understand it as a sales technique, and I think it's almost an inevitability of the market that it will go that place because it is something that people will want. So eventually people will offer it as a competitive edge.
Absolutely.
I think that there is something very, very strange about it. I find it insulting, if I'm being completely honest, that someone would want to put their brand name on my product. I understand it because everyone is so proud of what they're doing and they want to see their thing grow. But you don't see cafes asking their milk company to put their brand on the milk. You don't see them asking the chocolate company to put their brand on the chocolate that they're using. But there is a very strange relationship between a coffee roastery and a coffee shop where it's almost, maybe it's competition that's led us to this point, but it's almost a toxic relationship at times where the balance of the give and take is kind of it's a very strange relationship, and almost all of the time it's fine and it's really good. But there's just something strange about the fact that, like, as a coffee roastery, you are expected to do so much for a coffee shop, whereas, like, I think the other example I like to use is a chef is not going to call their butcher to fix their oven,
Exactly. No, I completely agree with that.
but a coffee machine that they did not purchase from us, we are still somehow responsible to make that work again.
yeah,
I don't mind it, and I think, like, because it's a norm of the industry, it's like you just do the things that you're supposed to do. But I do, when I think about it, feel that it's odd.
I think so, and I have a few thoughts. I'm going to loop around the topic a little bit. I think I'm going to be very cautious here to not make it sound as though I'm putting Bluebird into the same category as Dark Arts when it comes to brand strength, because I think you guys are miles ahead of us. But the one thing we do share is we're both very personally invested in the brands that we've built, and they're
Yeah.
brands that we're in love with.
Yeah, I can tell that from talking to you,
Yeah.
that you have a very similar, like, attachment.
So attachment is absolutely perfect. So I share your view on it. Like, I've worked really hard. I've had a lot of personal sacrifice to build
Yeah.
the brand that I have.
Yeah, and me
to
too.
slap someone else's name on it. It
Yeah.
does feel insulting. I agree with that. I don't mind collab things, and I think Onyx in the
Collab
US
is great.
Onyx have done a great job, I think, in the US, where they've got like their box, and then they'll have like a sticker over the top, and it might have the name of the cafe. So there's a cafe in Amsterdam who we've sent coffee to before called Hummingbird,
Yeah.
and they've got a coffee that is an Onyx box with Hummingbird Cafe on the front of it.
Yeah.
That's cool. It's like a collaborative effort. Maybe they've been involved in selecting the coffee,
Yeah.
or whatever the case may be, but it's still an Onyx product.
Yeah.
And I'm happy with that. Like, we'll put we don't do it a lot, but we would do some sort of collab with our bigger volume customers. That's okay with me. But as long as it's very evident that it's a Bluebird product. And it should, my view on it as well is that it should actually be desirable. If we're working with the right B2B partners, it should be desirable for them to have a Bluebird product on their shelf. Because our brand should add to their brand.
And I think it's like, that's a partnership in business, right?
Exactly.
And I think that's where I like it to be. And I guess like if you have a strong relationship with a customer to the point where you want to collaborate on product, I think that's like, you know, whether that's the coffee or merchandise. Or we've started trying to like collaborate on merchandise with our customers now. And I think
I think is very generous of you because, in my opinion, you guys, or I've never really thought about this, but just off the top of my head, like you've got to have one of the strongest merch games in the coffee industry. And you've got a platform where you have customers already committed to buying what you put out. So to put a partner's brand on your merch, it has to be value adding to them as well.
It's definitely something that we do in a way of like it's like events based. And we've played around with the idea of having like an ongoing thing where it's like we collaborate on certain items that they can then either use as staff uniform or sell within their shops.
Okay.
But it's a hard thing to kind of navigate because it's managing expectations, I think, is the biggest problem. And I think that ties back into the issues around coffee and co-branding or like any form of like white label. Look, to be honest, I'd be closer to if someone said to me, hey, like I've got my own bags, here you go, can I just get that coffee in this bag? I'd be more inclined to want to do that than for someone to say, actually, can I have your box, but can I have my company logo on the front of it?
Sure.
Because I think that's there's something that doesn't sit well with that, and I don't know what exactly it is. It's probably my ego, if I'm being completely honest with you. But that's a constant struggle with something that you've like invested so much of yourself into that you want to protect it. But we don't do any white labeling. We don't do any like co-branding. We've done co-branded releases.
Yes.
But they're always short term. We have.
And the thing is,
we've been talking about it though. We've been talking about it as a company though because within the UK, there's a lot of roasteries that are starting to just. Well, not starting to, like they've been doing it for a long time. If a customer's got 20 kilos a week,
have your own bag.
Put the company name on the sticker on the front of the bag. Which, you know, if the more people do that, everyone's going to have to do it.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm kind of always just like, I get it because it got you that customer, but imagine if we had to do that for every customer.
Well, I mean, that's a part of it, is the logistics. It's a bit of a nightmare. But I think also, like, I always think in business terms, you've got to like begin with the end in mind. So what are you trying to build? That's what I'm always thinking about.
Yeah.
And by diluting the impact of, so downstairs, you have a hard-working team.
Yeah.
And for them to ship products out of here that doesn't have your brand on it, it doesn't build your brand at all.
No.
So every bag that leaves that's got someone else's brand on and not yours adds cash to the business, but not necessarily brand building.
No, yeah, all right. That is right. Like, I think like,
and you need both.
I've done one white label job once. Someone asked me for 17,000 bags.
17,000
bags of coffee.
I mean, all of my opinions might change with an order of 17,000 bags of coffee.
I'll tell you what, it was such a fucking nightmare, and the entire thing was completely fucked from start to finish. That I ended up like not making any money, and it was the biggest stressful point of my life. So it was just like one of those things. Like everyone that was involved was like an amateur at that point. So it was like I did my best and held up my end of the bargain, and everyone else along that supply chain dropped the ball.
Okay.
And I, being the one who had to actually finally deliver the product, was just lumped with so much extra stress.
And I'm interested, were you like sort of anti-white label before, took it on because it was such a big thing, and then...
No, I mean, like, I'm definitely anti, like, white label, but that's more probably for similar reasons that you just sort of outlined. But no one would ever say no to a job like that.
17,000 bags of coffee.
70,000 bags.
Just for all of our listeners, if anyone wants 17,000 bags of anything, deliver it.
It was I'm not allowed to actually, I had to sign a piece of paper, but it was a subscription.
Okay.
There's a subscription to this company with 17,000 people on it.
I mean, there are only a few subscriptions that could possibly be in the world, so yeah, that's staggering.
The sun is shining. It's very warm where we're sitting.
Yeah.
And these beers are tasting very good.
They're tasting amazing. They're tasting
these
absolutely
are from
amazing.
Mondo, Mondo Brewery.
I love the graphics.
Yeah, they're really fun.
Really cool.
They've always got nice beers. This is a particularly good lager. When we get this one, this is coveted by the staff.
I mean, it has
one.
been going down very easily. So
Yeah,
that's amazing. Yeah. Jeez, I don't even remember what we were talking about. What is your favorite, like, of all the coffees you guys have named, what is your absolute favorite? Does one come to mind?
name?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess for like different reasons, right? So I can probably do a couple for like different, things. I think Lost Highway for us, being that was the first name we gave our that was our first forever name,
Okay.
and it was always going to be our espresso.
So does that get passed from seasonal coffee to seasonal coffee?
It was seasonal coffee to seasonal coffee up until very recently when Jamie has developed some relationships out of Mexico. So now it is from the same community year round.
Amazing.
So Lost Highway will always be a Mexican coffee from this point onwards. We also have a coffee called Dragon, which is sort of our sort of like entry level espresso. So it's always like a Brazil.
Okay.
But yeah, that was the first of our ever forever names, and it was one that sort of we were pitching for like this large chain of bars and diners, and so the name Lost Highway, obviously a David Lynch film, but it was this sort of idea around the diner and the forever.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Topping up of the of your filter coffee. So
I assumed it has something to do with bikes.
with what?
With bikes.
No, it's the David Lynch film, and this sort of idea around the diner and the American like experience of like drinking. So because we knew we were actually looking for a coffee that was going to be served in a diner and as a filter, and we were looking for something that would taste, it had an American, like kind of maybe slightly darker than what we would like to do, but something sort of chocolate nutty kind of thing, and then that just eventually became the espresso.
Amazing.
So I really like that name. I think we kind of found our way onto that one, and it's just stuck around. It's never felt like a bad. It's a word that's been said so many times, and it's never rung awkward.
Oh, that's awesome.
Which is, I think, that's quite a nice thing. The next one was the Investigate Carol Baskin, because that one was the first time that we utilized the naming of coffee on a topical event to generate sales. When we put out that coffee, I think we sold 500 boxes that day. And we had never
In a
experienced...
single day?
And we'd never experienced anything like that before.
All e-commerce, or was that also through wholesale customers?
It was just e-commerce. That was
Holy
just on the web shop.
crap.
So we put out this coffee, put the post up on Instagram. It went semi-viral, and we sold 500 boxes of the coffee. I think at that moment I went, oh, okay. It was like I found this button that I didn't know existed.
That is absolutely incredible.
Yeah, it's like, because there's so many people out there that drink coffee, and if you give them like a fun reason to buy it, like it doesn't always have to be serious.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day, like as long as you are proud of the coffee you're going to put into every bag, it doesn't always matter. It doesn't always matter what beans are in there. Like I drink so many different coffees. Like I'll work my way through coffee that I don't even like because I will just drink it because I like coffee. I love drinking it. We'll put on a batch and it'll be a really bad brew, and I'll fill them up and I will drink the entire thing. You know what I mean? So. That was the first time I think I uncovered that button that I could,
That's
sell
really, really interesting. And do you think that you use the same approach with merch as well? Or do you think that's a completely different thing?
Merch is different. Merch was something that kind of snuck up on us. I wasn't expecting that. I think we made some t-shirts really early on, and I did that classic thing of like ordering 10.
Yep.
And then just like thought that just some friends would order them, and then they like sold out immediately, and then had to get like 30, and they sold out, and it kind of you realize, oh shit, and then you're kind of, all right, well, what else can we put logos on? And I follow a lot of clothing brands, like one of my favorite brands. And one of my favorite creative people is Eric Brunetti, who has Fucked, if you know that brand.
The cap.
Yeah. So that's like it's a skateboard brand from the 90s. He's still going. The guy's a bit of a lunatic from what I can gather online. I never met him, but he's been someone who I've looked at for a very long time of like what he's done creatively. But I follow people like that. So, seeing how they adapt, because they're small businesses, they're clothing brands, but, a lot of what they do is very DIY, it seems, and that's sort of the approach. So it's we're just trying to find products, things that work, things that look good, and then trying to find places that'll print on them. And it's like a really fun part of the business that I wasn't expecting to be as popular as it is. It's a line item on the P&L now. Merchandise.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a big part of our business now, selling merchandise.
I've got a friend back home who, she jokes with me that they sell more caps and t-shirts than coffee. Yeah. She's done such a great job with her merch range. But it is such an important and such a valuable part of the business, because not only is it like, a profitable thing potentially, but it's just brand building beyond, when people are walking around, wearing something you've created, and it's got to do with coffee. It's like, to me, I still can't really wrap my head around it, how can a coffee brand create a cap that's so good that people would prefer to wear that over a Vans cap or a Patagonia cap? It's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem like there was, I think it's a very millennial thing. I mean, no, it is everywhere, but it's like this. People love to champion their favorite spot, and it's. I mean, it's even getting to the point where there's like you're seeing like H&M putting out like a T-shirt for like a fake pizza restaurant. You know?
Exactly.
Like it has like a pizza because I think pizza shops like hands down have like sold probably more T-shirts than fucking anyone on the planet. I feel I'm always seeing someone who's wearing like something by the slice. Like it's amazing, but it is that thing of like wanting to rep your local thing.
Absolutely. I saw the first coffee one the other day.
It's the same as wearing like a football jersey or like you're repping a team. It's
exactly.
Yeah.
I saw a coffee one. I don't know if Cotton On is a brand here. I'm like quite naive to. So I think it seems to be affiliated with H&M in South Africa, but I think it's an Australian brand actually.
What's called?
Cotton On.
Cotton On.
Cotton
yes.
On.
Yeah. So I know Cotton On.
So I was in a Cotton On shop with my partner, and I think it was P&Co. Are they a British brand?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they did a T-shirt with like a really cool coffee sort of range of.
Yeah, it's like Slow Sundays or something.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know that one.
And Cotton On had done like their own version of that kind of T-shirt.
That's fine because like P&Co do a little bit of stealing themselves.
Yeah, I'm sure they do.
There's one in particular. I want to like P&Co because I do genuinely like all their stuff, and I've got a very close friend who models for them a lot.
Okay.
but they also like ripped off a friend of mine who's like an illustrator. So I'm like, I can't.
You're so conflicted.
I can't fuck with them at all.
Yeah.
It's like,
But it is an interesting thing. Like, I wouldn't be surprised to see some dark art stuff being ripped off by.
I don't know about that. I mean, maybe like I do appreciate this what you said, but I think
Coca-Cola's definitely ripped off your.
that was really fun because like we had a guy I know. He's a designer, and I was like, hey, can you just all the soda brands? Can you? And I didn't know what I was going to do with them yet. I was like, can you just like do me logos of like all the main soda brands, but with saying dark arts instead of like the brand? So he did them, and we sat on them forever until I had the idea, because we were doing scales. Like we sold scales in different forms. We just buy like these sort of like, they're kind of like weed scales effectively. Like that's what they are really. But you get them from China, and they'll put logos on them. And I was looking through them, and then I was like, oh shit, they got a red one. And I looked at it, I was like, fucking the Coke label would look good on there. And I was like, Coke?
Coke scale?
Coke scales? So we put out Dark Arts Coke scales. And that was cool.
Your Colombian coffee imports went through the roof as well.
I never got to. I'm so gutted that I didn't hold on to one of those.
Did you not?
No. I haven't held it on to fucking almost anything. I'm really bad at like.
You guys should have a
archiving.
museum here of like all the past projects.
I'd love to. I did it for such a small amount of time, and then I'm a mentalist. Like I'm not an organized person. I'm a complete like. I fray at the edges. Like I'm not a put together person. Sort of organizing myself to like keep stuff. It's like I just don't do it.
I mean, I see a collection of mugs and boxes and that type of thing here of past
I mean, that's the
projects.
work of other people, I guess.
The work of other people. I like it. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, I think James Wise actually put all those boxes under there because they look really good in the videos.
They're amazing. Sure, yeah, and the videos exactly. This is your YouTube. Well, YouTube? Yes, you guys do some stuff. Mostly Instagram.
We did YouTube during the lockdowns. I'd love to get back to it, but I mean, I'm
It's
aware
hard,
you do. It's so much work.
I know you have a series of videos on your Instagram saying we tested this with James Hoffman, didn't have to. It's almost like he does that so you don't have to.
Yeah.
And how did that happen? Like, are you like friends with James? Like, before.
Yeah. So like,
the first sort of connection I saw was I think it's the Brad Pitt video.
Yeah. So I didn't know James at all, and we had actually. We used to do some things sometimes, kind of making fun of other businesses. And so like...
That's a very diplomatic sort of way of explaining that.
Yeah, and like... so I always thought that James didn't like me because we put out a coffee called Dead Brick.
Dead Brick. For context for our listeners, James's company, Square Mile, their most famous espresso blend, and maybe one of the most famous espresso blends of all time, is called Red Brick.
Yeah. So we put out a coffee called Dead Brick, and I had heard that he was really upset by it, and I don't know if he was or not. I've never actually asked him. So I kind of was always just like, I just steer clear of him because he's a force to be reckoned with, and like his contributions to the industry is like he's got a list a fucking mile long. The guy's been an absolute stellar member of the team. Like he's done such a great job.
Absolutely.
But then as things went along, like I think I kind of sent him a couple of things because he has become such a personality, it's almost impossible not to use him and his name to meme. So we did, and we'd kind of like used him in a couple of different ways. When we were doing YouTube videos, I took one of we covered the fact that he performed this group cupping online Do you remember that?
Absolutely.
It was thousands and thousands of people bought that.
So I think he's done one or two of them.
Yeah, I think it was tens of thousands.
We got involved in the second one.
Yeah.
And it was just post-COVID, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
It was mental.
It was amazing. So we when we were doing YouTube, we were doing this sort of like weekly news show when we were kind of delving into what was going on in the world in coffee. And we did a cut of him where we effectively took the entire video and just took every slurp. And then just did a super cut of all the slurps, and it was a bit intense to watch.
Is that why he stopped putting the slurps into his videos now?
No, I don't think so. I don't think we had ever that kind of impact on him. But I sent it to him out of like, I feel like because he was doing YouTube and we were trying, I was like, oh look, I feel like I have to like send this to you and go, hey man, like, just so you know, like, this is all in good fun. Like, please don't be upset at me for doing this. And he came back being like, this is hilarious. Like, but then followed it up with like some other like very, very like well-mannered like encouragement. Like he was like, I'm watching the videos, you're doing really well.
Wow, that's amazing.
And at that time it was like, what? Like you're watching us?
You're watching us? Exactly.
Yeah. And then through that we kind of went back and forward a couple of times, and like we've definitely like memed on him a lot. So I'd always send it to him. There was one
quite recently that I thought was pretty funny.
Yeah, I think it was
James is like a chiseled body.
So I'd always sort of slide it his way and be like, hey, like this. And every now and then he'd be like, I don't know how I feel about this one, Brad. And I'd be like, okay, for context, this is what the meme is. Like it's like, but and then he like wanted to do that Brad Pitt video. And that was such a cool experience because he had like a proper film crew.
It looked insane.
There was like a truck rig with a camera and like people on vehicles and blocking roads, and it was like a proper thing.
Wow.
And we rode my Harley around down on the coast. It was cool. It was really, really fun, and he's just such a really, really nice guy. And I've got nothing but really nice things to say about that dude. He's just
so cool.
Yeah, and we still kind of talk because he's also on a bit of a health journey himself. He's working out a lot, and he's like getting himself like, I don't know if you can. If you look at his videos and kind of, he's always wearing those like baggy jumper things. Like
okay.
He's always kind of dressed like a librarian. But like if you look, he's getting fucking swole.
Getting swollen under the librarian.
Yeah, he's probably
jumpers.
He probably doesn't look as far from that picture that I put up as maybe he would have a few years ago.
My favorite comments on his videos, I don't watch a lot of them anymore, and I should get back to them. It's got nothing to do with the content. It's just got to do with like, I don't watch a hell of a lot of coffee content in general.
Neither do I.
But
I used to watch a lot of his videos, and now I can't. I can't watch coffee stuff that much.
I feel the same way. You know, like Lance and James, I think as an industry we have so much to be grateful for that they actually put the time in, because it's hard. Like, you know, we've got a tiny YouTube channel. I think we have like 1,000 subscribers. You know,
I think what James is actually doing, and I think it's like we probably. I know. Like, and I don't want to gas him up too much. You know, like, but it's effectively what he is doing is single-handedly bringing more people into the industry to purchase coffee off us online than almost anyone.
100%.
Like it's millions of views he's getting on these videos, and it's like not. I know people who know nothing about coffee that watch his videos.
Absolutely.
And they're like, I just like listening to his voice. And it's like, just through watching him, now they know so much more about coffee. They are now going to the better shops. They are effectively, some of them now buying good coffee online.
Absolutely.
He's doing more for the industry than almost anyone. It's amazing what he's doing.
And it seems so like, I mean, obviously there's personal gain from what he's doing.
Yeah.
But it's not, he's so cautious not to put Square Mile in the front of his in his videos. He often has when I was watching more of his videos, there were often other brands that he would use and Hero,
he could be milking that
So much so. Like,
And he's just not at all.
no, he's not at all. He's not at all. It's really respectable, and I think that's probably a part of the reason why he's doing so well. Is like people know he's so principled in his opinions. But wow, the conversation I'm having with customers now compared to 5 years ago is just like so advanced.
Yeah.
And I think they're responsible for it in a big way. I had a conversation today with a couple who, gosh, when I started my business, I installed a 10-kilo drum roaster in my home office. I took 2 tiles off the roof of my home office, and I had a chimney going straight out the roof and like waterproofed the whole thing. And it was this tiny little room, and that's where Bluebird started when it was a hobby. And Lisa and her husband were buying from me back then. They moved to the UK like 5 years ago, and they just rocked up to Roslyn this morning. And I was like,
sick.
wow, this is amazing to reconnect, you know. And she actually said to me this morning that like she thanks me for getting her into buying good coffee, and she thanks James for educating her around what that means. If that makes sense. So we gave her access, and James taught her what it is, and she still watches like every video from him.
Yeah, I mean,
Which
it's
I
like
think is so cool.
I'm a big YouTube person. I watch like that's like my main like. Hello. Have you got your key?
Did your roaster last on fire?
I do have to clean the kitchen.
So our internal joke at our roastery about fires in the roasting machine. My first staff member like walked out of the roastery while the machine was heating up, and I was like, "You remember what to do if there's a fire?" And he was like, "Yeah, grab the marshmallows." And that's always like lasted. So that's the protocol.
There will be a fire now, and they'll be like,
What are you supposed to do if there's?
Exactly.
What are you supposed to do?
You should let it burn.
Run.
I hear you let it burn.
Yeah, just let it burn out.
You let it burn and you walk away.
Is that the coffee, the roaster, the roastery, everything? You just let it all
You
burn.
just say, guys, there's a fire, let's go.
We saw a
Time for a beer.
Grab the beers.
I saw a picture a couple of days ago of like that same roaster downstairs completely engulfed in flames, where a guy had been in the middle of a roast and he got a power cut, and it like stalled the roaster and it just sat.
Oh my word.
The power came back on, and rather than dumping the coffee, he turned it back on. The airflow turned back on, and it just exploded.
Oh my word.
That's the dumbest thing.
It's I can understand, like, because maybe there's a level of panic going on, so you're not thinking straight.
If I panicked though, I literally would just be like, oh guys, I think it's on fire.
Oh, you would just open the door, get the coffee out immediately, right?
Yeah, you just...
But unfortunately, this man didn't, and it stayed in there. And then the power came back on, so he started the roaster again, thinking, "All right, it's fine."
Got to get the drum turning or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, but then that oxygen went in there and
Yeah, it's just like blew on the flame.
yeah, it obviously had just sat there and went molten, and then the airflow just went.
Have you ever had your Ikawa not spin the coffee?
No, I don't roast on the Ikawa.
So it's so weird because altitude affects how the airflow works. So from my roastery to home is 2 kilometers driving, but the altitude changes like up a hill, and it's so weird. When my profile is exactly as I wanted at the roastery, it's a little bit underpowered airflow wise at home. So I had shoulder surgery, and I was at home on like really good pain meds. Yeah, I was good. I was in a really, really good spot with a stuffed shoulder, roasting all these Costa Rican samples, and I didn't realize that my coffee wasn't spinning at all. It got so hot so fast. I think in like under a minute, it was like smoking out the top of the Ikawa, and I just thought like, apparently they do have safety features in place that if it gets too hot, it will cut out and just cool the coffee down.
It's too late.
What if it's too late?
Fire.
Exactly.
What happens then?
You grab the marshmallows.
You grab the marshmallows.
Yeah.
Just embrace the situation. I think.
Exactly.
And that's always a good rule of thumb. Embrace it.
Embrace the situation. Go with the flow.
Fire. What do you do?
It is a hell of a thing though. I remember reading this article. There's this guy Çatay. I can't pronounce his surname, but he's a roaster in Istanbul, like really prolific. He's won the roasting champs many times. I remember reading an article, an interview with him, where he said, the interviewee said, "Have you ever had a fire in your roaster?" And he's like, "No." And this is at this time he's like already prolific.
Yeah.
He's like, "No, I haven't." And I've read that you're not a real roaster until you have a fire. So I'm really holding thumbs that happens soon.
Oh, that's really sweet.
It was so tongue in cheek though. I can't wait for my fire.
One day will come.
There's a similar thing that people say about riding motorcycles. Yeah, it's until you've come off.
Have you?
Yeah, a couple of times.
Really
Yeah.
bad?
One time was worse than the other. One
Okay.
time was just around the city and I wasn't going that fast, but I did get thrown off the bike. Another time I was like massively under. I was riding outside of my abilities.
Okay.
Basically, I was like riding through a mountain pass, and the weather changed very quickly on me, and I was riding through a storm.
Oh my word.
And I was on a very old motorbike, and I basically dropped it. I was going downhill. It was rain and wind, and I was just trying to get through it. I got to the summit. I basically was starting up this hill, and I was like, "Fuck, the weather's really starting to get a bit ropey." And I got to the summit, and I was on my way to a fucking party.
Of course you were.
So I wanted to get there. I probably should have turned around as I was going up, but I decided to just keep pushing through. Got to the summit, pulled over, and they had a little cafe at the top, but by this point it was like closed. So I just pulled over and I sat there for an hour, and the weather just didn't get. And I was like,
What do you do? You just stay there for
it was before
Exactly.
It was before smartphones,
Yeah.
so like you wouldn't look at the weather like we can now.
That's like New Zealand, right? There wouldn't be signal anyway.
Well, also not in this mountain range. That's for fucking sure. And then so I was like trying to come down the other side, and I just like I ended up just like dropping the bike, skidded across the road, broke my arm. But it was one of those things where it was like I immediately felt good about it because I skidded across the road. I fell over. I managed to get myself up, pull the bike up, and as I was pushing it around the other side of the road, this like car just went zoom. Because it's like cars, they're not even feeling it, you know.
You would have been flattened.
He would never would have seen me. Either he would have gone off the edge, trying to avoid me, or he would have. He would have slammed right into me, and we're talking seconds. Like we're talking maybe 10 seconds.
Gosh.
So immediately,
you were just grateful for the broken arm.
immediately, I was just like,
For relief, right?
Thank God.
yeah.
Splattered
Yeah,
all over me.
but then the reality of my situation kind of sunk in, and I had to sit there and wait, and then I ended up having to get on the back of that was a long afternoon.
Shame, man. Yeah.
But I still got to the party.
You kidding?
Yeah, no, I did. I got the recovery vehicle took the motorbike to basically like a tow shop where they were like, come pick it up another time. This is how much it costs per day to keep it here. So, cool. Went to the hospital, put my arm in like a temporary cast, and then went to the party. Rolled up like a couple of hours late with the fucking best story.
That's incredible. Oh my word. Jeepers. Yeah, that's so good. Yeah. I broke my arm mountain biking once. It was on New Year's Eve, and I was racing bikes at the time, and I went down this trail from home, ended up at the parking lot of the trail center close to where I was living, and I had to go and pay, and I was just riding through the parking lot. I put my hand into my back pocket of my cycling jersey or whatever, and there's this little channel that had formed from some rain the night before.
Oh shit, so you're
I
one-handed.
just bunny hopped with one hand, which I'd never done before, and I was really good at riding bikes, so I was like, I've got this. Didn't even think about it. Put my front wheel in the hole, went over the handlebars in front of about 400 people.
While your hands
While my hands on my back. Went over, yeah, no, it was terrible. Like full parking lot. Well, this is what,
Take a broken arm to be like, just get me away.
the embarrassment is what motivated the next step. I went over the handlebars, like roasted my entire back, broke my arm, got back on my bike, rode to the trail center, paid, and rode an hour and a half home. Got to my car, put my bike in the car one-handed, drove myself home, got onto the driveway, saw my mom come out the front door and just started crying.
Yeah, there is a point where you're just like, I don't want to be an adult anymore. Mommy.
It was so funny. Like, did the brave thing. Got myself all the way home. It's like, Mom.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, so not as good as your story. There was no party at the end. Actually, there was. It was New Year's Eve. There was a party at the end, yeah.
There you go.
But it wasn't that good.
No, I don't remember the party. I just remember rolling in there, but
Rolling in.
I remember turning up because it was a flat I used to live at. So I was going to see some old like flatmates and some old friends.
Yeah, when you've just broken your arm, it's a good reason to get to a point where you don't remember the party.
Yeah, I probably drank a lot that night. Yeah.
That's all you're going to remember. You're just gonna be like,
Yeah, the shock.
"Oh, that's really bad."
Yeah, that is wild, hey. The timing of that is just...
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, it's strange when stuff like that happens where you're so close to everything being different.
I always think of that movie, that like old movie, Final Destination.
Yeah.
It's like, let that not be the case.
So here's one for you. When I first arrived in this country, I stayed with some friends on Hackney Road. That's where I was going to live. They had a spare room, so he told me where to go. He left a key out. I effectively went, dropped off my bags, sat in the room for a second, and then was like, I'm in London. I've never been here before. And I was on Hackney Road. I didn't have like service, like access to phone. I got nothing. So I had my phone, but it obviously wouldn't work. So I just kind of like walked out and just went for a walk. I was like, I'll just follow my nose around because I was like jet lagged and whatever. I walked and found my way onto Brick Lane, not knowing which way I was, like how I did. Walked down Brick Lane, walked onto Hanbury Street, saw Nude Espresso, walked into Nude Espresso, and a girl who I went to high school with was behind the coffee machine. And I was like,
What?
okay, it gets worse. It gets worse. I go and I start talking to this friend about that I've just arrived and that I needed a job and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, blah, blah, blah. Started chatting with her, and then she was like, oh, my friend runs a cafe up the road. She's looking for baristas. I go, oh, okay, like, which one is it? It's up here. Go. Talia, my wife's behind the counter. She's running it. I go in. She's like, all right, can you make a coffee? And I'm like, yeah. I haven't made a coffee for like 5 years, and I used to work at a shitty pub that had a coffee machine. I cannot make coffee. But I was like, yeah, I can make coffee. Somehow managed to fluke the milk and poured a heart. And at that point in a lot of coffee shops in London, that was enough. So I got the job on the spot.
And this is day one?
Day one. I think it was probably a couple of days later that I kind of ended up getting the job, but it was like...
But you walked into that cafe on day one?
Yeah, on day one. We got introduced on day one. So, and then it was that job that I got. That was my first job in coffee. If I hadn't have walked into that thing, like I would not have chosen to get a job in a coffee shop. I would have gone and got a job in a bar. Because that's the only experience I had at that point. That was like outside of like some other like call center stuff that I'd done in the past. It's just like the most random thing. And then now it's like my entire life is coffee. It's sometimes I think about that, like it's a strange thing.
It's
like,
bizarre. The only thing that concerns me is that we pivoted off of the movie Final Destination onto How You Met Your Wife. I'm just kidding.
But it's like, what's that other movie, Serendipity?
Oh yeah, exactly.
we talked about Serendipity earlier on. Yeah.
Oh really?
Yeah. I'm a Sandra Bullock fan.
That's brilliant. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just the world and life is strange.
Yeah, I like things like that where you can pinpoint very,
Yeah.
very definite like forks in the road down to almost a second. Like I like things.
I'm
like
going to
that.
tell you a story, but first I'm going to end this so we can turn the mics off.
Yeah, cool,
So,
cool.
Brad, thank you for your time.
No worries,
It's
no
been
worries.
incredible. It's been so cool to meet you, and popping a message to you on Instagram and getting such a warm response was really cool. So thank you very much.
You've said some really, really nice things. So I really appreciate you taking the time to like come and give the feedback from your staff and say that all these things. It's like that kind of communication like makes this job and makes this stuff like worthwhile. So I really
That's
appreciate
awesome. And I hope the coffees you left behind aren't shit.
it. I'm sure they're going to be amazing. I'm sure they're going to be great.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, bro.
Cool.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Coffee Made Me Do It podcast. We'll be back soon with another episode from my Euro trip a couple of months ago. Hope you enjoyed this one, and we'll catch you in the next one. Ciao.